Welcome to the Cracking the Growth Code podcast. I'm your host, Matt Zembruski, and I'm pleased to have as my guest today, Dale Young. Dale, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Matt, for the honor of being able to be on your podcast.
Well, let me introduce you briefly to the audience, Dale, so that everyone is a little bit more familiar with you and your background. Our audience has a lot of current and future leaders across all of the corporate world, especially. And so for our audience, Dale has spent more than 4 decades in the information technology area before transitioning to executive coaching. He was an entrepreneur as a computer consultant and VP of a startup company in the year 2000 that grew from self-funded, a few $1,000s, to millions of dollars in revenue. And believe it or not, check this out, made the Entrepreneur magazine Hot 100 Fastest Growing Companies in the US at number 10. Which is a huge achievement. I'm a big fan of that magazine and where they had gone over the years. And again in 2002 at number 23, Entrepreneur Magazine Hot 100 Fastest Growing Companies. So number 10 and number 23, absolutely fantastic achievement. Dale transitioned to a director role with another computer consulting company and was key to securing $1 million annual consulting contract in 2007. This one deal was almost 10% of the entire revenue of the company for the prior year. So fantastic background, Dale. Thank you again for being here, and can't wait to pick your brain and share it with everybody.
Well, I'm here to let you do that there, Matt. So go ahead.
All right. Well, let's jump right into it, Dale. As a fellow IT professional with some years of experience under my belt as well, I'm curious about a couple key topics here that I want to dive into. The topic of sustainable growth and the topic of leadership. And I know you have a lot of experience in both of those. So as a leader, entrepreneur, or as a leader in the corporate space, how would you describe the concept of sustainable growth as it relates to companies today? What comes to mind when you think about growth for teams and organizations?
Well, I think in a lot of cases, you have to be in the right place at the right time. You have to have the right culture. You have to have the right people. You have to all be pulling in the same direction. So having a good mission, vision, values of a company helps pull it together, helps get everybody down the road in the same boat, so to speak. Patrick Lencioni, of course, he writes for leaders all the time, right? But he says, if we could get everybody in the company rowing in the same direction, we could outperform any other company in any other industry. I'm probably butchering the quote, but that's the essence of the quote there, and that's so true. When I was part of that startup in 2000, we were all rowing in the same direction, and even in 2002, when we were rowing in the same direction. What I didn't put in the introduction was that we actually had to shut it down in 2004 because it was a leadership crisis. We were not all rowing in the same direction, and there were some challenges as far as who was calling the shots and all that sort of stuff. So we actually had a very real kind of roller coaster there in that company. So that was the case where I saw the good and the bad in the same company.
That's wild. Let's talk about that, because you talk about a few different key items in there, such as timing, rowing in the right direction. And there's timing of opportunity, which is tough to predict, right? If someone's going to go take a new role at a company like you did, and then all of a sudden it's, I'm in the right place, right time. I've seen that happen with some of my friends over the years. I've had different pockets of that as well in my background. And so let's talk about timing and rowing in the right direction as it relates to leadership. So I want to lean in first on the timing piece. So how did you at that time, when you joined, what was your role there, and what was your interaction with other leadership and with really creating the culture of success that was created or nurtured and grown for those first few years you were there?
Right. So that particular company, we started in, actually going back, the group of us had actually started probably 2, 3, 4 years before at prior companies. We'd been at one company that actually was sold out in 1998, late 1998. And a group of us had transitioned to another company because we didn't like the direction they were taking the first one when they sold it out. and this new company had hired us on. Our team was basically doing selling a lot of computer hardware, Sun Microsystems back in those days. So it was a lot of hardware, low profit margin type stuff. But we were adding on services and configuring the operating systems, and especially adding database services on top, which was fairly unique for the time. And so it was something that was working well with this company in 1998. We built up a pretty good division with this bigger company in 1999, but they were all into the .com thing, right? And so they wanted to go do website development, and they wanted to do all this other stuff. And it was like, we looked at the financials. Our division was profitable. The website divisions were not profitable, yet they wanted to get rid of our division. And so we made a deal basically to take that division and roll it into our own company. Nice. So we started with 10 people in the company, and we had a pipeline of people, and we were paying the original company, we were paying them a referral fee or finder's fee or whatever, based on all the existing customers. Plus, we brought in some new customers. And so even though we started with almost nothing, a few $1,000s for 10 of us, we got some contracts in pretty quickly, had some good relationships with Sun Microsystems and with the distributors and things like that. So we were able to hit the ground pretty much running and start selling a lot of hardware. That selling of the hardware caused us to be able to move into the consulting part of it and do the services part of it and do the operating systems and the computer, the database, which is the more profitable side of things, right? And but this was in 2000. That's the year of the .bomb, right? We thought it was going to go great, and then it just boom, And so we could see that the hardware side was going down in profit and getting tougher to sell, both. And so some of us, and this was especially in 2002, some of us were really pushing to move more towards the services side. Okay. And that's what the internal argument was about. There were people that we like to say they were just on the hardware drug, and they were just happy to go along with what was going on with that. And they didn't want to move in the new direction. And there was actually a ownership split because of that. And so ended up that we had to shut the company down in 2004. But that was a case where, we some of us could see the timing, could see what happened or what was about to happen. I mean, in 2005, I think it was, Sun sold to Microsoft. So Sun Microsystems Sun sold not to Microsoft, Sun sold to Oracle.
Oracle, to
Oracle. And so Sun Microsystem doesn't even exist anymore, right? It's part of Oracle. And the profits took a big plunge even after that. So, it was just, you could see some of it. If you read the tea leaves, you could predict some of these things. And some of us that predicted it right were transitioning more and more into the services side. And that's what I did. After that company, it was Applied Solutions was the name of it. After it went through the split, we moved over to another company. It was kind of an interesting story because I worked for this same boss for 13 years across 4 companies.
Wow.
And in 2008, after the recession in 2008, it really hit us in 2009. They laid him off and gave me most of his job. So it was kind of like, what do I do with that now? So anyway,
that's funny.
But that was strange.
Yeah, you touched on. So I want to hit on timing again. So you had the opportunity. Not everyone gets this opportunity, but you had the opportunity to see based on trends in the marketplace and so forth. So you were at company A, right? And then you said, the timing seems right to make a shift here. We should shift more into the services side, less into the hardware, less into the .com stuff, as that was starting to get hot and everyone's going crazy about some of that. So, and you had the opportunity with this group of about 10 people or so you shared to say, hey, we want to do a pivot here. We want to do a pivot in the marketplace, and we're going to shoot off as a separate company or whatever happened, right? So I want to talk for a minute about the people. So now you come off with 10 people or so. They all came from the original company, and now you have to start a new company from scratch. You have some deal flows, you have some things to kickstart the engine, but I'm guessing that you had to hire people. You had to create, like, the basics of a company foundation, like what's our mission, what's our vision, where are we going to go. Talk to me a little bit about how the people came into the new company, because the 10 of you had worked together for a little while at least. So you had sort of some culture hardwired amongst each other already. Right. But now you have the unique challenge in leadership to, hey, we want to grow it. We want to bring more people on that are in this same mindset and can help us grow and just maintain a really positive growth culture, which you proved out. But tell me about the people side of it. Like how many people did you hire? How fast did you have to grow? And that type of it.
Yeah. The first 10 of us, I'd say 4 of the 10 were people that were basically dealing with the hardware side and the hardware delivery side. And then there was Gary, who was the president. He basically most of the organization, most of the decision making was him. I was vice president. I was trying to help build up the services side. And so another 4 were basically consultants that initially they weren't really working for me, but it sort of developed into that over time. I was kind of the manager of them. By the way, managing computer consultants is really like herding cats. So I just have to throw that in. But as we got more people, we kind of added more on both sides, both the hardware side and the consulting side, so to speak. The consulting side, for sure, was something where I was trying to get everybody focused on, here's the dream, here's the vision, here's where we're going. I didn't really interact with the hardware side that much, but they were getting some of it. And I remember in 2001, I was really getting into John Maxwell a lot, really following him. And in, I think it was 2001, 2002 timeframe, I actually took it on myself to take everybody through the 17 indisputable laws of teamwork, which was on a VCR cassette or VCR tape back in those days. But we'd watch that, we'd discuss it, one per week type of thing. And so, 17 weeks, it was a very consistent type thing of trying to reinforce the culture and reinforce, here's how we do things as a body. And here's how we work together as a team. And I think a lot of that picked up, but there was some people, that in 2003, 2004, it was like, we just want to rest on our laurels and just, keep doing the hardware deals without them understanding that the hardware deals, the profit margin was getting slimmer and the amount of gravy that was available wasn't going to go around as much. All the other things were, the hardware industry was just getting very unstable at that time. And so, when we transitioned to the new company, some of us went over there together. Let's see. So over in the new company, as Gary was the division guy and I was helping him lead the division, once again, he was focusing more on the hardware side and other new developments and other things like that. I was focusing on the consulting side, and being able to get that $1 million deal in 2007 was just a way for me to say, okay, this is the culture that we need to keep going. This is the culture we need to keep building. And that was the one that, that I come down to, that's the thing that I'm most proud of for my career, because that lasted at least until 2021 with that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. And that's, so just to be clear to the audience, you and I spoke a little bit about this prior, but that's $1 million consulting contract and revenue per year over the course of more than a decade. So that's an amazing contract. Like lifetime value of that contract is up well over $15 million or so. It's
probably somewhere north of 10. Over the years, it's gone up and down and number of people on site and things like that. But it was still going when I were completely detached from that company in 2021.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations on that success, Dale, because that's amazing. And I love what you talked about what I found with our listenership and readership is everyone really values the practical application of what we're talking about here so much. And what you shared a minute ago, I want to highlight again, is you talked about bringing in some of John Maxwell's 17 irrefutable laws of teamwork into the company and doing one a week. So you had like a little VCR tape that you went through. But I just wanted to share that again with the audience so everybody got that. Like as a leader, how do you create positive culture? How do you create a culture of positive teamwork? It's not just, I don't know, thinking about it as a leader and expecting everyone just to absorb it by osmosis, right? You've got to come in with these practical techniques and applications. And in the world of agile and lean, we talk about the spirit of continuous improvement, right? So this is how do you continuously improve the culture? And the example that you shared there is a very good one and very relevant. I mean, John Maxwell is still a super popular figure in the world of leadership and teamwork and so forth. And I think that's a brilliant example. So I just wanted to highlight that again and ask you a question related to that. Did that help? Do you feel that helped move the needle in getting the organization, your smaller team of employees and so forth? Did you feel that helped move the needle in getting everybody aligned and thinking along the same lines? Like when they approached work in the workplace, they were speaking more of the same language in terms of teamwork and communication?
Absolutely. And, I mean, this is a bunch of nerds, computer consultants, specifically at that point in that $1 million annual contract, it was database consultants, and they're kind of the weirdest of the weird anyway. So, yes, getting them, they would hear the stuff and it would sink in a little bit, but the whole thing about continuously dripping on them. When I started that in 2007, that annual contract, I was flying down, the client was in Houston, I'm in Dallas. And so I was flying down at the start, 4 days a week I was spending in Houston. Go down on Monday, come back on Thursday. Wow. Got down after a year or so that I was only doing 3 days and then, 2 days and then getting it down to either 2 days every other week, which was nice, or maybe 2 days, maybe just 1 day, just fly down and do some stuff and come back. But just keeping the presence and keeping the camaraderie together. I'd always have a team meeting whenever I was down there, and we'd just discuss what's going on, where you needing help, who can help you with that thing, and just getting the whole idea of we don't work on this alone. We work on this as a team. And a lot of database guys, it's like, don't touch my database type of thing, right? But you got to convince them, hey, you do want to go on vacation every once in a while, and you do have to have somebody that knows what's going on with that database so that you can go on vacation and bringing in the what's in it for me thing to them and helping them understand that. And I think, just continuously reinforcing that. Of course, I was growing as a coach through this whole time anyway. So we did DISC assessments and we did other kinds of things to help people understand their personalities and other kinds of things like that. And that really helped as well. Just, helping them understand how they interact with people and such like that. It really does go a long way.
I like that whole story, and I want to ask you a question related to the Agile space about being down there. You talked about you were traveling down there, you're on site for a while, right? We've had a pandemic and a lot of people were off site. Now that some of them are coming back on site, right? A lot of shifts have happened over the last 5 years or so. And I'm curious, I'm guessing you had a number of your other employees, your team members were also on site with you. It wasn't just you. And then you said you eventually were doing more coaching, right? You were helping out with some of the executive and coaching there. What did you find was the cadence of feedback or the amount of communication? And in the Agile and Scrum, we talk about fast feedback loops. We talk about doing a sprint. It's a 2-week sprint. We're going to develop something and share it with the client and get their feedback and then iterate and then do it again. What did you notice that worked well when you're on site with the client? Sometimes you're probably working on your own with your team, but sometimes you're interacting with them or you're sharing some of your work with them. What was your cadence of communication with the client when you were on site during those rapid, I guess rapid delivery years? You guys were pretty busy.
Yeah. It was definitely a case of every time I was there, I would be meeting with the team and I'd be meeting with the client. And sometimes that was together, sometimes that was separate. Most of the time, I think it was separate, and then we would occasionally get together as a team. So it was definitely a case where I was trying to build up communication systems. I was also trying to get a team lead in place down there so that I didn't have to go there as often. And we first started out with a guy that we'd actually got from Florida. He ended up moving back to Florida and we had to start getting another one in. So getting the right middle manager, if you want to put it that way, getting the right person that's actually on the ground, on the hands-on, dealing with both the client and with the internal team, that was a big key component. And we went through several of them. Most of it was because they chose to move off to something else. It wasn't that I was really unhappy with them or whatever. But good people have good opportunities, and sometimes you can match them, and sometimes you can't. So, sometimes you just have to say, hey, you're ready to go on to something bigger and better, and we can't match it. So here's the blessing. But by the way, why don't you train this guy while you're here for the 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever the notice is. So
exactly.
And that was another thing as a leader that I had to prepare for, was always keep in mind who can replace each person. I actually learned that way back in the 80s because I was working in Australia during the time, and every 2 years people would disappear for 2 months basically. And you had to have backups all the way across. And so that's just something I've always kept in mind all the way through my career, is who can replace you? Who can you get out? Plus, here's another key point. If you don't have somebody that can replace you, you can't leave and move up to another job yet. Okay, so I was always trying to find somebody to replace me so that I could move on.
That's a good point. It's a very good point, Dale. As we wind down our podcast, our interview here, I have two more. One is very practical for our listeners, and the other one is just more fun. Two more questions to ask. So the first one is, from your perspective, and I didn't give you, for our audience's purposes, I didn't give Dale any real advance warning on this. So we're gonna see what Dale has at the core, at the top of his head here. So the question is, I just want to get very practical. Thinking about our audience of current and future leaders across the industry, across all different types of companies. Some of them are in the C-suite, some are at the team level, some are in the middle, some are team coaches, scrum masters, product owners, right, all over. Based on what you see in the market today and your strong background in technology and leadership, we've talked about a little bit here. What are 3 tips you would give to leaders? Maybe they're new leaders, maybe they've been around for a while in the industry. What are 3 tips that you would give to leaders today so they can better understand what's truly needed right now to grow their organizations?
3 tips. Okay, well, tip number 1 is relationships are critical. You have to keep your relationships good no matter what. You're not going to get along with everybody. Okay, it's a given. You're not going to like somebody. Okay, but you still have to give them the honor and respect that is deserved of them, and you have to make sure that people do not neglect you. So sometimes you have to speak up. You have to say, hey, I've got some ideas around here, which kind of leads into the idea number 2. Leadership is all about, there's a pie in the middle of the table. And a lot of people don't even ever reach out to take a piece of that pie. Leadership is about reaching out and taking a piece of that pie as appropriate. Okay. You don't want to be greedy. You don't want to take the whole pie. Okay. But you do want to take what is appropriate for you to handle at the time. And the more you do that, the more opportunities you'll have to be at a bigger pie. So you'll move up.
That's
Okay.
fantastic.
And then tip number 3, I would just say keep learning. You can always learn something new, and don't focus just on the technical side. I will tell you that for many, many years, I focused on the technical side. And it was about in 98, 99, 2000 that it was like, oh, there's this whole world of personal development out there that is just wide open. You know, I started with Maxwell and Lencioni and those types of leadership people, but that leads into there's a whole bunch of other people out there. There's Zig Ziglar, there's Jim Rohn, there's all these other great people that have all this practical wisdom out there. So open your mind and be ready to go to some other places. And that's what I did. And you know, now I've got so open a mind that I can't even keep it all in the same place anymore. So there you are.
Fantastic tips, Dale. Thank you so much for sharing those. Those are really important relationships, and they keep learning. And in the middle, I wrote down the about the pie, taking advantage of opportunities that are in front of you. And I think what you I want to clarify the pie for a second is you're talking about the pie in the middle of the table are the opportunities for work, for projects, for volunteering, for different initiatives and things like that that are important to the company. You're saying don't just stay back and wait to be assigned something, but reach in and say, hey, I can help out here. I can participate here. That's where you're going out with the pie, right? More proactive.
With the pie. That's exactly right.
Okay, yeah. Cool. All right, cool. That's fantastic. I'm talking about relationships and continuous learning all the time, and love those answers. And so now I have a fun one just to wrap it up. And there's no right answers here. This is sort of like, what's your favorite color? Do you like blue more than red? It's that type of just thing. Although it's related to leadership and growth in companies. So they may take a little bit more than your favorite color to think about. It may take you 5 seconds to think about each one. I don't know. You can take as long as you want. But I call it the fast 5. Okay, so which of the two, I have 5 of these, which of the two do you think are most important to help organizations grow and to help leaders create, better culture, today in general? It could be in general across the industry, what you think. What do you think is more important, attracting talent right now or retaining talent right now?
I would say probably retaining talent, because it is so expensive to attract talent and get them up to speed and all that. Some figures out there say that it takes 1.5 to maybe 2.5 times their annual salary to get somebody onboarded and up to speed. If you can retain somebody for 1% of that, maybe 10% of that, why not do that? Especially if they're good people. It's worthwhile to keep the good people. Now, it's also worthwhile to make sure that you don't hang on to the people that are causing the problems.
Yep. Good one. Good answer. Good answer. So next question, hybrid work or remote work?
I believe that everything needs to be hybrid to a certain extent. Okay. There is nothing that will ever replace face-to-face communication. It just won't. But with Zoom, we don't have to do nearly as much face-to-face as what we did back when I was traveling to Houston 4 days a week type of thing. It really is something that Zoom or any of the other telecommunication protocols, video conference and whatever, any of those things can replace a lot of it, but they can't replace all of it. It just doesn't work. As humans, we're built to be in community.
That's good. I like that. Good answer. Next one, grow now or grow later?
Both. You gotta do both.
A little bit of both.
You got to start now, because if you don't start now, you're going to be way behind later. So you got to do both.
Got to get the growth engine going right away. All right, next one, from a company perspective, typical companies in the industry, do you think they need more focus right now or more fun?
That is a good question. And I think that's going to depend on the company a lot of the time. But if you had to say in general, the majority, I would say probably they need more fun. Okay. I think a lot of people know what they need to focus on, and they're not doing the focus because it's just not fun. It's not something that they want to do. And so you have to figure out a way to make what they're doing attractive to the people that are internal.
Very good, very good. Great answer. Last one, clarify vision or optimize execution.
It starts with vision. It starts with vision. If you don't have the right vision, just like going back to my company, Applied Solutions, our vision was to use the hardware to build up the consulting so that when the hardware went down, we'd have a great company. Okay. And so through that process, some people said, oh, hardware is doing fine. We can just rely on that, and they started competing with the vision. So if you don't have the vision set, if you don't have the vision pretty much laid out, now that's not to say it's going to be set in concrete. You always have to be changing your vision depending on what's coming at you. I mean, that's why the windshield is 90% bigger than the rearview mirror, right? You got to be looking forward. You got to be looking ahead towards whatever is coming. And so you got to get the vision right. Once you get the vision right, if you got the right people, they will help optimize the execution.
Love that. Great answer. Well, that wraps up our amazing podcast and interview today. Thank you so much, Dale, for your time, your energy, and sharing all your experience and insights with our audience. Really appreciate having you here.
Well, I thank you, Matt. And it was fun to go back and revisit some of these old memories and everything. And I hope it helps somebody out there.